Saturday Ticket is finally back, and we have this video here, and this was made preseason. It was my predictions for the 2023 NFL season. This is a very, very, very long video, which is going to make this video an even longer video, because I'm going to be reacting to every single prediction that I made in this video, and we'll see how they turned out. Am I a fool or a genius? Now, this video that we are about to watch did not get many views. I think next year I'm better off putting them in shorts, these videos. But, yeah, I mean, if it had gotten views, I feel like it would have gotten a lot of backlash. There are a lot of unpopular opinions in this, and, I mean, I hope some of them turned out right, because they were not popular picks, and lots of people would be wrong if I was right a lot in this video. So, without further ado, let's just get into it, because it's going to be a long video.
Do you remember the days when NFL predictions made sense?
No.
Well, those days are going down the drain. They've been going down the drain like some water in a bathtub, with teams like the Eagles, the Jaguars, and even the Bengals being popularly predicted to win their respective
None
divisions.
of those teams won their divisions. I was right about that, that's for sure.
Oh, all gone. This bathtub is now empty. There are no sensical predictions out there, hardly any. Today, we are going to refill the bathtub with some predictions that make sense, that are rational, that are presented by Saturday Ticket.
I hope they made sense.
Now, you may think that if I have these unpopular predictions, they make no sense. Or you may be intrigued, wanting to know what bold predictions I have. And there are certain teams that will have fans that will be very excited about this video. Or maybe even think I'm crazy and I'm higher on them than you are yourself. But we'll just drop the whole bomb on you. Here is my entire division rankings. With this side, it will be the left side, I believe, being first place. So we got the Chiefs, the Colts, the Steelers, and the Jets winning their respective divisions. And we got the 49ers, Saints, Lions, and Cowboys up here. Now, you may notice an empty void here. I unfortunately lost my magnet for the Minnesota Vikings. This is the Minnesota Vikings. Believe me, that is about as visible as the Minnesota Vikings will be in the NFC playoff picture. That's about as visible as they will be in that situation. Sorry, Vikings fans. You guys are a good fan base, and the home field advantage there with the whole skull thing, it might actually get them a couple more wins than they should have. But you'll see their record. I'll tell you their record.
You know, I respect the Vikings a lot more than I did when I made this video, because I thought their defense would just be so bad, but I felt like their coaching staff did an excellent job this year, and I actually found myself rooting for them to make the playoffs later in the year. Like Kevin O'Connell, he's really good. He could win Coach of the Year even, maybe. Maybe not since they didn't make the playoffs, but I mean, that team was competitive, and I didn't think it would be. And then Brian Flores completely flipped that defense around. They were a pretty good defense this year, I'd say, especially compared to last year. So, congrats, Vikings fans. I think your future's probably bright.
Now, if you've made it this far in the video, congratulations. You officially have an attention span of 2 minutes and 26 seconds. Now, you are about to get the reasoning for this garbage prediction list. Garbage. I tell you, you're going to laugh at this so much. Either you'll find this funny, or you'll agree with me after I tell you all this. You'll probably agree with me. Now, you're going to say, oh, this guy's a Steelers fan, that's why they're going to win the division. No. That's not why the Steelers are going to win the division, because I'm a Steelers fan. Some random one person is going to make them win the division in their hypothetical world. No, the Steelers are going to win the division because they are a better team. Their franchise is more historic, more well-coached, more well-managed, and it's just more high-class than any, and I'm telling you, any of the other AFC North teams. The Browns are somewhat close. But the Browns, they're kind of an expansion franchise since 1999. If you want to look at the history of that, I will have a video on maybe in the next couple years, because it will be my NFL 100 series, talking about how the Browns relocated to Baltimore and became the Baltimore Ravens, otherwise known as the Baltimore Ratbirds. That is what I would like to call them throughout this video. So when I say Ratbirds, you may know them as Ravens. Okay.
That's a tradition around
Without further ado, let's get into it. So we'll start at the top, work our way to the bottom. We'll be logical like that. Alright, so I've got the New York Jets taking the AFC East. Now, this team was very promising last year, although
This obviously didn't work out, the New York Jets. And I know the Rodgers excuse is very convenient, but it's also very valid because, I mean, Rodgers missing the season, they still won 7 games without him. They lost really close, low-scoring games, like the game to the Raiders. Then against the Chiefs, they were pretty close that game without Rodgers. And the Chargers even, they were still competitive without Rodgers, and that's, people might forget just how good Rodgers is. I mean, he's won 2 of the last 3 MVPs before the injury. He should make a big impact there next year.
they didn't make the playoffs. They looked very good at times. Zach Wilson was 4-0 as the starter. That's how good of an all-around team they had. And you know Zach Wilson is nowhere close to starting caliber. We saw that last year. And that is why the New York Jets went out and they traded for Aaron Rodgers, a top 3 quarterback in the league, the MVP 2 of the last 3 seasons. An aging veteran, yes, but he is also very smart. And I've heard out of training camp that their defense is getting smarter just by playing against Aaron Rodgers in practice. And their defense was already great, with talents such as Ahmad Sauce Gardner and C.J. Mosley headlining it. The secondary led by Sauce Gardner, with guys like Jordan Whitehead, DJ Reed, all playing their part. And now they've also got Adrian Amos, another former Green Bay Packer, alongside Aaron Rodgers. Quinnen Williams will likely get an extension somewhat soon from this New York Jets team. This team is superior, I believe, to the rest of their division. Now, this is a tough division to pick because Buffalo has Josh Allen, who I believe is the second best quarterback in the league, behind yours truly, Patrick Mahomes. And then we've got the Miami Dolphins, who have a lot of speed on their offense. And they've got, I mean, you want to talk about, like, the best 6 players in the league, the best 6-player core, maybe, with, like, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey, Bradley Chubb, Xavier Howard, Teron Armstead, guys like that. I just don't know that there's enough of a complete team with, like, their entire defense, the linebackers. Their defense gave up some points to some teams that I wasn't impressed, like the Zach Wilson-led Jets scoring 40. It was in the 40s, the number on them.
That was crazy.
So, yeah. That's going to lead me to take the New York Jets to win the division. I do believe Aaron Rodgers will return to his MVP form with guys like Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb to help him there. Garrett Wilson, who won Offensive Rookie of the Year. That's why they'll win the division. And Miami, I do like them slightly better than Buffalo. Buffalo has shown a lot of inconsistency on defense, and they lost Tremaine Edmonds. I'm not too excited about Buffalo somehow. I mean, I know their home field advantage will be nice, but not to say Buffalo's a bad team. Like, I've got them going 11-6, I believe, then Dolphins 12-5, and Jets 13-4. And then the Patriots, with all this tough competition, they will fold like your home-made card that you made yesterday.
I called this.
They will fold terribly because Mac Jones is there. Now, Mac Jones I don't despise as a starting quarterback, but he's just not. He's just average or worse. Average is probably somewhat generous for him with all the talents that have been breaking out in the league these past few years. And the offensive talent around him is lacking, to say the least. I mean, Devontae Parker just got an extension. Like, that's your top receiver? Like, really? Like,
Juju.
They've got some promising stars on the defense, like Christian Gonzalez, who I kind of wanted the Steelers to take in the draft. And, yeah, I mean, I do think Bill Belichick's good, and he will find a way to have this team maybe get a couple upset wins, but that's all they're going to get, because every game that they would play would pretty much be an upset if they won it. So I've got them going 3-14. With a worse coach, it might be like 1-16
I was
somewhere.
close.
Like even worse. Okay, now that's the AFC East covered. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think I explained that pretty logically, and I mean, I hope you understand that rating. Like, I know the Bills won it last year, but I mean, you just can't have the same division winners over and over. They'll have a tougher schedule too. They should have a tougher schedule playing the top teams in each division, such as the Bengals, the Chiefs. Everybody actually plays the Chiefs in that division, but they'll be going at the Chiefs. The Bills will. And yeah, I mean, Josh Allen's good, but it just seems like the Bills have been overachieving these past couple of years. That might be my biggest hot take here, like so far, of course. Next up, here we go with the controversial one, the AFC North. The Pittsburgh Steelers are undoubtedly, I'd say pretty much undoubtedly, the top team in the division. I do not like Kenny Pickett as a Steelers fan. I think Mitch Trubisky should start. It shouldn't even be a question. It should maybe be like a battle in training camp, but I don't think it should really be a decision. I think it should be Pickett staying on the bench, trying to learn the ways of the NFL for one more year, and you give Trubisky the job because he played the best when he knew he had the job. Like when Pickett would be injured, he had nothing to lose. Give Trubisky nothing to lose. Say, you're the starter all year this year, and you're not the starter next year. You can't prove to us that you're going to be the quarterback next year. Just say that. Sign like a legal contract or something that says that. And Trubisky will play well. Because, I mean, in the games that Trubisky came in, he was absolutely helping out the Steelers a ton with big third down conversions. I believe Deontay Johnson had his best game of the year with Trubisky. Pickens had that really good catch with Trubisky earlier. Also, Matt Canada cannot continue to be a part of this team here. Like, I mean, he's called the same exact plays over and over of like jet sweeps and just all this fancy stuff. Like, that's not how the NFL is. Like, you're gonna do a shovel pass to the tight end on 1st and 10. That's something you do at like the 1 yard line. Like, I just like it's stuff like the jet sweeps to Chase Claypool, which now he's gone. So who are you gonna do that to now, huh?
Calvin Austin.
And if not for Kenny Pickett and Matt Canada, if they were just average, I would probably pick the Steelers to win the Super Bowl. Because the rest of the team is stacked. It's got guys like TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and then you got Marcus Golden just sitting there on the bench, a 12-sack guy. Like, with some other depth there, Nick Herbig, drafted in the 4th round, but one of the best pass rushers in college football. Undoubtedly. Not a great run defender, but pass rush, though, he's got that. And then Cole Holcomb in the middle is really underrated. He's been underrated for years with the Commanders. Like, he didn't do well last year because he was injured. But the year before that, 132 tackles, I believe, 7 forced fumbles, and a pick 6. Like, that's no joke to be your starting middle linebacker. Much better than guys like Miles Jack, Robert Spillane, who just goes for big hits and doesn't know how to technically tackle at all. Devin Bush, who was an absolute bust. Then you got Landon Roberts, who's been a solid linebacker in the league for years and years that we just got to the Steelers. And we drafted Joey Porter Jr. I think that might work out. His press coverage technique. And then Patrick Peterson seems like he's mentoring him well. And Levi Wallace doesn't get talked about enough in that cornerback room. He had 4 picks last year. He was solid. He was better than solid, I'd say. Like, he did nothing wrong. Like, there was never a play where I was like, oh, Levi Wallace, except one maybe dropped interception. But in coverage, though, he was awesome. Like, and then Minkah Fitzpatrick, I don't even need to explain.
There were a few places.
If you think that it's even close, if anyone's even close to him as a safety in the NFL, you need to go watch some tape because, man, Minkah Fitzpatrick is a ball hawk. He comes down, makes tackles, big hits. He's got it all, like, as the safety. You can't ask for anything better. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. And he's not even 26, I don't even think. He's really young, too. So that's awesome. And then you got Cam Hayward in the middle. You got Braden Fehoko. You got Larry Ogunjobi, Keanu Benton, who we drafted. Like, it's just a stacked defense. And then on the offense, You got someone like Darnell Washington who might not even see the field much, like an absolute talent coming out of college, a 6'7" beast, and he might not even see the field with guys like Pat Fryermuth, who's probably a top 6 tight end right now. Someone like George Pickens, who catches anything in his radius. Deontay Johnson, who was the most open wide receiver in the league according to PFF last year. And Allen Robinson, who is the most overhated player that I can think of in the NFL right now. He's been injured, he's had bad quarterback play, and he's still got Hall of Fame numbers, I'll bet. Like, somewhat close. He's probably up around 10,000 yards, I'd guess. Like, he's just been a consistent performer. He's a good veteran to have there. Calvin Austin's super fast on the offense. So I'm really excited about the Steelers team. Like, very excited. I think they'll probably make the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs. It'll be a pretty good game, too. I mean, if Pickett develops even the slightest... I'm saying all this, and I think Pickett's going to play pretty badly. I mean, if Pickett just develops to what a first-round pick should be, this team's going... It's probably going all the way. Like, who's going to stop them? I don't know who's going to stop them. No one. Okay, now, second place we got the Cincinnati Bengals, as you can see.
I said we'd go to the AFC Championship game. Wow, no wonder I've been so upset about my team. I had this high expectations preseason. I said we were one of the 4 best teams in the whole league, with Kenny Pickett at quarterback. What the... Wow.
Now, I have doubted this team a lot in the past, and they have done some good things in the playoffs, in the postseason, in the regular season. They've had some winning streaks that I just didn't think were possible for them. And it just seems like things seem to fall in place for them, which is... It's understandable, given that they've sucked, like, for lack of a better term, for the last 60, 70 years. Their entire franchise history.
Yes,
maybe
sir.
forgetting like the Boomer Esiason era, Ken Anderson, since 1989 or 1990. I mean, they didn't even have a playoff win since then until a couple years ago. So like
the Lions.
Yeah, they can have a little bit of luck now. I won't be upset at them getting lucky now. Just, I think it'll stop somewhat this year because, like, you know that the Bengals probably should have lost in the first round of the playoffs the last 2 years. Like, they play the Raiders there. They still have no playoff wins since a while ago, so of course they're going to get a little bit of luck to go on their side to help them get their first playoff win. They play the Raiders. The game's really close. Joe Burrow rolls out. He's under pressure. He's on the sideline. It looks like he steps out of bounds, but he actually throws a pretty nice pass. It looks like a pretty nice pass. We don't know what would have happened. But the main story here is it's a touchdown to Tyler Boyd. But the referees clearly, audibly blew the whistle mid-play. And you could tell the Raiders players completely stopped defending. There was Trayvon Moehrig in the back of the end zone as the safety that could have probably broken the play up. He was really close to the play. Like, he was like almost right there.
Yeah,
and you could tell he stopped trying when he heard the whistle. He was hustling, then he just completely stopped. He put his hands behind his back and just like kind of like rolled his eyes, or whatever players do when they hear a whistle. He was getting ready to go back to the huddle, and then the Bengals player just caught it, and it's like he's almost laughing at him. It's like, oh, the whistle blew, haha. But no, haha, you, because the refs are going to just ignore the fact, they didn't even mention the fact that they blew the whistle. And they're just going to say, oh, the quarterback didn't step out of bounds, it's a touchdown. Okay, but you blew the play dead. The play was dead. That's your fault. You got to go back, like, you got to figure something out. You just don't blow the play dead. You let the play go.
Still don't know.
And they did blow the play dead, and it had an effect on the play. Literally, the refs were helping them. Yeah. Like, you can't, like, you could say bad calls, whatever. Literally, the refs were like a 12th offensive player there with the whistle distraction.
That was awful.
Like, it's
that decided the game too.
Okay, we've talked about that. Let's also talk about how in the first round of the playoffs this year, you're going up against Tyler Huntley. Tyler Huntley, a backup quarterback, and the Baltimore Ratbirds. Remember, I refer to them as the Ratbirds.
No more reminders.
And yeah, the game starts off okay. Bengals go down for a field goal, and then okay, it's somewhat close. Okay, Tyler Huntley throws an interception. Okay, this is how I thought the game would go. And then Jamar Chase touchdown. Okay, here we go. This is what the Bengals have been doing the past couple years.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, the Ratbirds just kind of storm back. Like they have the dropped snap and throw it up, and Josh Oliver gets it. And then they have a touchdown, and then later on, I think Burrow actually does. They throw another touchdown to Hurst, and the game's pretty close now. And then all of a sudden, Demarcus Robinson absolutely cooks Eli Apple. Now that was satisfying with all the trash Eli Apple talks. That was nice to watch. He burnt him by like a good 10 yards, and then they score a touchdown there, the Ratbirds. Then they get the ball back again and get down to the 1 yard line. Tyler Huntley goes up for a quarterback sneak. He's inches away from the end zone and the ball gets knocked out. The ball gets knocked out and it pops right into the arms of the only Cincinnati defender that has no Baltimore player near them. And that's Sam Hubbard just lurking and waiting for the ball to come to him. And it does. He goes 99 yards to the end zone untouched. Even though, don't think other people would think of this, Mark Andrews was hustling back there. You guys remember that? Mark Andrews was going to make that tackle until the Bengals player, Marcus Bailey, blocked him in the back. Clear and obvious. Andrews fell on his stomach. Obviously, he was blocked in the back. That's how it works. So, yeah. Bengals, I just explained to you why they're fraudulent. All right. Yeah. So now that we've established that, we're just going to say, okay, you're going to say, okay, they had good regular seasons. They had good regular seasons, but they were by no means perfect. Their offensive line has been in shambles for a decade. I mean, of course it's not going to be fixed now unless you think Orlando Brown's going to block well for them. Let's just go with the trend that it won't be good. The Steelers' pass rush is going to absolutely deck the Bengals' offensive line like it has last year. TJ Watt with the sack there and the interception in week 1 there. Alex Highsmith with 3 sacks against that offensive line. That was with them fully healthy. Lyle Collins won't even be there to start the season and maybe for another month or so with the torn ACL. So I think the Steelers should win the division. I mean, maybe Joe Burrow makes it somewhat close. I mean, the Bengals' defense won't be good either. They lost both their starting safeties. I mean, it should be somewhat close just because of like the offensive scheme that the Bengals have and how much success they just seem to have just throwing it into coverage with Chase and Higgins, and how Higgins pushes off and doesn't get called for it.
He did get called for it a bit this year.
Yeah, I think somehow the Bengals will keep it somewhat close, even though the Steelers should blow it out of the water. And Kenny Pickett will also help keep it close. We'll just say that. Matt Canada. Tweedledum and Tweedledum, I guess.
Yeah, in
this situation.
They're both not
because, I mean, it's not even to say that Matt Canada and Kenny Pickett aren't, like, good football minds and football players. It's just to say that the Steelers have such a high standard. Like, Mike Tomlin, the standard. Mike Tomlin, the best coach in the league, he sets the standard.
At least top.
And I just don't think Kenny Pickett and Matt Canada are quite there. They could improve. Kenny, for sure, as a first-round pick, could improve. I just didn't see a whole lot of potential. No. Those game-winning drives he had, he was lucky because his defense was giving up, 15 points max the whole game?
That's what I always say.
Steelers' defense played really well last year, and they even added Keanu Neal. Like, there's other names that I can go on for hours about this Steelers defense and just team all around. But we're already over 20 minutes here, so we gotta move on. I think we're gonna probably just kind of quick recap the rest of these. So yeah, it's pretty obvious that the Steelers are gonna win the division. I don't it probably won't be that close. I mean, it will be, but because you know the NFL parity. And then the Ratbirds, they're stuck at the bottom of the division. I've got them with 7 wins, 7-10. That's generous. Lamar Jackson, the halfback at quarterback, the running back at quarterback, getting $260 million. He's not even going to be playing for a contract. What's he going to be playing for? He thinks he's going to win a Super Bowl?
Thanks for handing him that, Ratbirds.
So, the Ratbirds, they're going to be stuck at the bottom there. Like, the only reason they're not at the bottom is because the Browns, just like the last 50 years, will not be good. Let's just get that through you guys' minds. The Cleveland Browns are a pathetic franchise that is a consistent loser. They're consistent losers of football. Ever since Jim Brown, who have they had? I'll wait. No answer? What I thought. Alright. Browns are at the bottom of the division. Deshaun Watson. Nobody wants him to succeed. I think the world would actually like to see the Browns at the bottom of the division.
Browns fans that
Alright.
Deshaun Watson.
Now, the Colts at the top of the division, you might be a little...
And as for the Ratbirds, I doubted them because I doubted Lamar Jackson. And I just thought their defense would go back to about average because they've lost pieces on that defense. Like, Peters was leaving. They did just get Roquan, but, their defense just hasn't been the same in the last little while. Like, they've lost Calais Campbell. They've lost some guys. Earl Thomas in recent years. It just seems like their defense has been declining, but then this year, they just went boom. They soared to the sky. Give the Ratbirds defense all the credit. But one person I'm not going to be giving credit is Lamar Jackson. And you could probably guess that by some of my most recent videos from the Steelers-Ratbirds game I went to, which was a great game to watch, by the way. We got the W as well. Lamar Jackson, despite receiver drops, did not look impressive in that game. You can try to make excuses for him, but he just didn't look that impressive. And throughout the year, Lamar Jackson's statistics have also not been impressive. I hear MVP talk about him, and that just baffles me, considering that the V in MVP stands for valuable, which would signify valuable to the team. But going back to the defense, give all the props to them, because this season, they finished number 1 in points per game. Number 1. And number 1 in takeaways. Or at least as of week 17, and then they rested their starters. That is just historic stuff. To be number 1 at limiting your opponent from scoring points, which would signify conservative defense, protecting the end zone, stuff like that. And number 1 in takeaways, which would signify aggressive ball punching and punching at the football and jumping routes when the time is right. That is just crazy, and for any quarterback to have that with them, of course the team's gonna win a whole ton. The Ratbirds, they lost 3 games all year. Of course they're gonna. The games Lamar Jackson lost, the defense was doing well for them. The defense against the Browns, they only allowed 20-some points because Lamar threw the pick 6, and then they got a defensive touchdown. And then the game against the Steelers, the Ratbirds defense obviously played well, limiting the Steelers to 17 points. I just feel like the defense, the impact cannot be overstated with the defense, and Lamar Jackson to have 24 touchdowns against Dak Prescott's 36 touchdowns. The only thing people have for Lamar Jackson to say he's good is the eye test. It's some mythical story that you have to watch the games and the stats just constantly lie. And then you're going to start an MVP conversation by talking about Gus Edwards and how he steals touchdowns. That happens to every quarterback, by the way. Matt Stafford, I've wanted him to score touchdowns, and they give the ball to Kyren Williams. Patrick Mahomes, that Andy Reid does some crazy stuff with a trick play in the red zone or just a Pacheco run. So we can't just be making these types of excuses. And we can't just say wins, because football is the ultimate team sport, and like I just told you, the defense is historically good. So, if he wins MVP, it's just, I'm not going to give him more respect for it because I've seen what I've seen, and a ceremony isn't going to change that. Okay, anyway, enough ranting. Back to this video.
Nobody wants him to succeed. I think the world would actually like to see the Browns at the bottom of the division. Alright. Now, the Colts at the top of the division, you might be a little bit skeptical of that, and a little bit kind of thinking, is this guy crazy? Well, the Colts are at the top of the division because their defense has always been elite. In the last half-decade, it's been elite. Shaq Leonard is the best coverage linebacker in the NFL. It's not even close. Don't Fred Warner me. He's miles better than Fred Warner. He's a turnover machine and better at tackling. It's not close. So
Roquan Smith's better than
Shaq Leonard, Darius Leonard, you might know him by it, but he officially changed his name back to his birth name, Shaquille. He was out all of last year, and they had Jeff Saturday as their coach. Get that through your mind. Jeff Saturday was their head coach. And they looked bad, yes. But I just told you why. And they got Anthony Richardson. And guess who came over? Anthony Richardson's a running quarterback, right? Guess who came over to help running quarterbacks? Shane Steichen, the most underrated coach in the National Football League, who I will
That's a good take.
put almost as a lock to win Coach of the Year.
So close to winning that.
Because that it usually goes to first-year coaches with their teams.
Close.
He helped Jalen Hurts turn from
He still could
disposable assets, just someone that's like barely making the
Eagles
NFL. It
almost
seems
traded
like
for Russell
he helped
Wilson
turn Jalen Hurts
before 2022.
into an MVP candidate that made the Super Bowl and had the greatest Super Bowl performance of all time, with his 3 rushing touchdowns and 300 passing yards. The guy is a genius. I'm not buying, Hurts just developed. No, he's a second-round pick. Second-round picks aren't supposed to develop like that. He played in Alabama, too, so he might have even been overdrafted. It was Shane Steichen. And Anthony Richardson is perfect for Shane Steichen to project. It's the kind of guy. Is he that guy? He's got a lot of potential, that's undoubtable. But is he going to be in the NFL as a good starter? Or is he going to only be able to run the ball and not have good decision making and just not work in the NFL? Kind of like Malik Willis right now. That's kind of the situation with the Titans, Malik Willis. Shane Steichen will help Anthony Richardson's development. And so will Jonathan Taylor. The leading rusher, 20 TDs just 2 years ago with Carson Wentz at quarterback. That guy. That guy there. The guy that, had 180 yards his first week of this season and then got injured, and then the whole offense fell apart, so you guys forgot about him and don't think he's a top 5 running back, which I think he's the best running back in the league. That guy?
Second to McCaffrey.
And, the 3 Pro Bowl O-linemen, and you guys think this O-line's in shambles somehow just because they have a second-round pick at left tackle and some random nobody at right guard, and even though they have three former first-team All-Pros. That offensive line. And then, a guy like Jelani Woods is there also, who I think if they use Jelani Woods, this is an easy prediction. Because Jelani Woods, it seemed like whenever they were not doing well, they could use Jelani Woods and it would fix everything. He was like magic.
Once this year.
Like against the Chiefs. You can't say that they were in prime position to win that game.
He was a game changer.
He shouldn't have. But Jelani Woods caught the winning touchdown to help them do that. Against the Steelers, they were losing 16-3 at home. Then they started getting Jelani Woods involved for some third down conversions and big catches. And then they got right back in the game. I thought the Steelers were going to blow that game. It was 17-16 Colts in the fourth quarter. So, yeah. And I think they're also a tight end factory. Guys like Eric Ebron, they made look so good.
Yeah,
and then he went to the Steelers and didn't look that good. Then they got guys like Kylan Granson and then Mo Alley Cox, who doesn't look to have too much skill, but just is big, has the good size for the NFL tight end position. Former basketball player. They turn him into. He has flashes of greatness. So yeah, I have ultimate confidence in this Colts coaching staff. Kenny Moore is the best slot corner in the league also. And they did lose Isaiah Rodgers. I'm a little worried about the cornerback position there. I think they just have some young talent like Kwity Paye. They got DeForest Buckner in the middle, who you could argue is a top 3 defensive tackle. You don't have to be afraid to argue that. After Chris Jones and Aaron Donald, you could argue that. And yeah, I just think the Colts, nobody's talking about them. They're gonna bounce back here. I seem to pick them to win the division every year, and it never happens. So eventually, it's got to happen, right? With this kind of coaching staff, they've seemed to be a quarterback away for a while now, ever since Andrew Luck left. Okay, and then the Jaguars. I don't think the Jaguars are that good yet. They were having a bad season as usual last year, and then Doug Peterson took them on a good run. He took them on a 6-game win streak to make the playoffs and win a playoff game that they should not have won. And Doug Peterson is a respectable coach. I will say that. But the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think Trevor Lawrence is highly overrated because he didn't play well at all until the back, few weeks of the season. And Like, I just don't think
But I
that's
think it-
sustainable. Like, we thought the Jaguars were good at the beginning of the year because they were 2-1 and they just blew out the Chargers. Then they went back to as usual, losing a bunch of games. They lost 5 in a row.
This year they were doing good. The
Then they got back to
give them a pass.
they kind of hovered around average. They beat the
Not even
Ratbirds,
wrong about the
haha.
It beat
And then they kind of picked it up a little bit at the end, which helped. Even though the Titans were absolutely collapsing, and I think anybody could have beaten them, they barely beat Josh Dobbs off a lucky fumble return. So we're not going to hate on them too
Fluky's
much.
a
They're
better
not the
word,
Bengals,
not lucky.
so we're not going to have a huge hate page here of the Jaguars. I just
Not
think they're getting too much hype.
Not as lucky as the
Their defense is
Bengals.
not that good. Name a few players on their defense. Good luck.
Aluakon. Not many people could though.
Yeah.
Jags defense.
I think that's pretty fair. Texans,
spot on
CJ
with
Stroud,
that.
I think, is the best quarterback in the class.
Yep.
I mean, I think Bryce
Called
Young's
it.
going to be a bust. Like, he's
Called.
just not. He's not tall. He's got good improvisational skills,
He's not
but
a
I just
bust
don't.
yet.
I just don't think that kind of thing will work at the NFL level unless your name's Patrick LeVon Mahomes II. And I've got CJ Stroud here. He's got the measurables. He's got the throw power.
Yep.
And yeah, I think he'll
I knew it was
lead
Stroud.
his team to a better record than the Titans, who don't have good receivers or a good offensive line or a good defense overall. Can you name any cornerbacks on them? Maybe not.
I knew it was Stroud
So
the
yeah,
whole way.
I'll take that as my
I
order.
called Titans last.
Now we will have the Chiefs finishing first with a 17-0 record. That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
I know it's a little bold, but who should they realistically lose to?
No
like-
one, but that's not how the NFL works.
I'll wait. Again. They should lose to no one. They should beat the Eagles, beat the Bills, beat the Bengals, beat the Jets as their
So they definitely should have beaten the Eagles, or at least they would have if they had a serviceable receiver. Although he did get open, but like that drop was just unacceptable by Valdez-Scantling. And then also Justin Watson was dropping passes the whole game. On a better day, they definitely would have beaten the Eagles. Bills game, I mean, that's the Kadarius Toney offside game. I guess that you could say the Bills won that one fair and square. And then the Bengals game, they won it, but Burrow wasn't playing. And the Chiefs they kind of just had a weird year. Like, Mahomes wasn't playing his best ball. I think he was relying too much on his offensive line, which was declining, and he wasn't ready for it. And then I think Kelsey was, he's dropping off a little bit with, I don't know if it's because of Taylor Swift. It's probably just because of age, but Kelsey, I mean, there was definitely a drop-off. Although he came close to 1,000 yards, like you could just tell, there was some decline in his game. He was not as fast, not really getting open as much. Like, earlier in the year he was, and that's when the Chiefs were winning games. But later in the year, I mean, you just cover Kelsey. The more the Chiefs receivers would drop passes, the more you just cover Kelsey. So I think that has a lot to do with it. But also he was dropping some passes. And, ever since the bye, he just hasn't looked himself. And the playoffs haven't started as of the time I'm recording this video. But he's really going to need to step up his game in the playoffs, because I don't think Mahomes can be relying on Kadarius Toney or Marquez Valdez-Scantling or Sky Moore. Drop in the comments, who do you guys think is the worst out of those three, or has been the worst this year? Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, or Kadarius Toney? For me, I'm going to say it's Valdez-Scantling, because at least Kadarius Toney brings some sort of jet sweep game, like if you want to get the ball in his hands, or a punt return game. But Valdez-Scantling, I mean, he's dropping even easier passes, and Toney's drops are also magnified because they lead to picks, which is, I mean, that's not really an excuse. Like, you can't just tip it to a defender. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely really close, and I could see an argument for either of them. Sky Moore might have cost them a couple games. So even though Kelsey's dropping off, he's definitely, at the very worst, the second best option. I'd say he's the best option. Rashee Rice has been solid. I'll give him that. I don't know if he's just standing out in a crowd of a bunch of other bad receivers, but Rashee Rice is a star. Anyway, let's hear some more of this wrongness.
tough games. Beat the Dolphins in Germany pretty easily too. Like, I know games just are close for some reason in the NFL, but they shouldn't be close with the Chiefs. Like, that AFC Championship game against the Bengals should not have been close. If you guys watched any of that first half, you know it should not have been close. They had a touchdown called back to holding. There were some things.
That's true.
They had some incompletions at the
I
39-yard
hate when
line.
people talk about that game being rigged.
There were some things. There were some variables in play that kept that game close. Okay, they will easily outdo the Chargers with Brandon Staley as the coach. Like, no disrespect to his offensive mind, but as a head coach, do you want someone who's going to go for it on fourth down like he's playing Madden online? Or, do you want someone like that? And he's going to start Mike Williams. I don't actually think that was that bad, but I think he just kind of tried too hard in that Denver game at the end of the year. And he blew a 27-point lead. That has to go somewhat on the coach in the playoffs there. You have to put that on him a little bit. I was pretty surprised that he wasn't fired. He also ruined their playoff chances the year before by calling that timeout in that tied game against the Raiders. I really like that. That helped the Steelers get in the playoffs. But, I just think the Chargers, they have enough talent to do it, but I'm done believing in them. I've tried to do it other years. Finished with it. So they're second. Raiders, somewhat close. I think they're a little underrated. Jimmy G's pretty good. Their defense won't be good, obviously. Just Max Crosby will be good on that defense. The linebackers, the safeties, the corners, they won't be that good. Offensive line overachieved. Josh Jacobs might hold out. I mean, they could make a playoff run. I'm not going to hate on them too much. And then the Broncos at the bottom of the division, you can't pick the Broncos to do anything. Like, they've lost, 15 straight games to the Chiefs. I've got them losing 15 games this year, 2-15. And Russell Wilson, I don't have confidence in him. The receivers there aren't good. The offensive line will be somewhat good. Javonte Williams is overrated. I mean, if he's good, almost anyone's good at running back in the NFL. And, yeah, Sean Payton, I feel like it's a messy situation there with the Broncos, like Russell Wilson and Sean Payton kind of clashing over, some office in there.
That's what I
wouldn't want to be a Broncos fan right now, let's just say that. Okay, now, the NFC, that's only half the teams, and we're 32 minutes in. That's nice. Okay, I'm going to go pretty quick for the rest here. Okay, except Cowboys over Eagles. That's going to take some explanation, maybe.
That's correct. Shouldn't have taken explanation.
The Cowboys, okay, try this. Try cheering against the Cowboys for one reason or another. Just try it. It is the most frustrating thing you could do involved with the NFL.
Sickeningly frustrating.
How can you cheer against this team when they have countless playmakers on offense? They got CeeDee Lamb. They just got Brandon Cooks. They got Michael Gallup. There's always someone that seems to pop open for Dak to throw to. And Dak Prescott is a top 5 quarterback, no question about it. I'm going to probably pick him to win MVP this year.
Boom!
With leading the Cowboys to a 14-3 record.
Boom. How unpopular was that prediction? Dak to win MVP. He was being talked about in December as the MVP favorite, and he's still an MVP candidate. That was not a popular prediction. I picked him over Mahomes, and I think Mahomes is the best QB in the league, and I picked Dak to win MVP. Just because Mahomes can't win it every year. And this is his year to win it. I think he deserves it. 36 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. And the only other guy that's really been being spoken of is Lamar Jackson, with 24 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. That's 2/3 of Dak's touchdowns. Like, are you serious? And this isn't just like a situation of, oh, Dak gets opportunity. Look at some of the throws that Dak makes in the red zone, like to the back corner to Cooks, like in a bit of a crumbling pocket. And he's just throwing it like perfectly in stride to Cooks, who has just very little separation. And it's just perfectly in the back corner, in stride. It's perfect ball placement. And then him with Lamb, it's just been a special connection this year. You can't praise Lamb without praising Dak, and you can't praise Dak without praising Lamb. I mean, it's just, Lamb is balling. I think the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl. I don't think anyone can stop that duo. And then, yeah, like I said, when he gets in the red zone, he's had, I can think of 4 off the top of my head, just absolute dimes to, tight spaces near the sideline to Brandon Cooks in the end zone for touchdowns. The winning touchdown against the Chargers, the go-ahead touchdown against the Dolphins, and then the week 17, I believe, go-ahead touchdown against the Lions, and the week 18, I think his last touchdown pass in week 18 to Brandon Cooks. That seems like a good connection also because of those plays. And then, like, the running game isn't the greatest, but you got a great O-line there. Or at least a somewhat good O-line. And I think Dak's probably the second best QB in the league. I think Josh Allen's kind of failed miserably throughout the season with all his turnovers. He's just, the turnover problems are taking too long to get fixed. Like, let's just call it as it is. Like, if this was just, like, a one-off year, I'd be like, okay, I'll forgive it. But it's like 2-3 straight years of him just turning the ball over so much. That's why I think my Steelers have a great shot of winning, and I'm probably going to predict them to win this week in the playoffs against the Bills. Because even if TJ Watt's not there, Nick Herbig just forced a fumble on Geno Smith. Why can't he do it to turnover-prone Josh Allen? And then he'll go up against the right tackle of the Bills, who I don't think is good, Spencer Brown. I don't think he's been great this year. And I just think Josh Allen's going to throw a ton of picks. Minka's going to get his first pick of the year. But yeah, Dak's the second best QB. That's an insanely good prediction. Dak to win MVP in hindsight. That's insanely good.
It just seems like cheering against the Cowboys is such a lost cause because they'll get a few yards and then it'll be a third down, and there's just no hope of them missing it. CeeDee Lamb will make a play, Tony Pollard maybe, and their offensive line's great. But like there was a game I think I was cheering for the Giants against them on Thanksgiving. There were so many offensive penalties, and it would be 2nd and 20, 1st and 25, whatever.
Dak just gets them
3rd and 15, stuff like that. Dak would convert the ball.
Here we go.
Dak would just, like, they would never punt. I might bet they never punted that game, and they had at least 4, like, 1st and 20 type things, 2nd and 20. They're an explosive offense. They converted a 3rd and 30 against the Eagles to T.Y. Hilton. I mean, Dak's got an explosive arm. He invented the hip shake throw, like where you roll out to your left and then you kind of twist your hip and throw to the right. Yeah, like he's insane. Now the defense also with Micah Parsons is really good. Like he's got the pass rushing arsenal. He's got the coverage. Like he's the most versatile player in the NFL. Maybe
the coverage this year. But a great pass.
Yeah, and then they got not Mozzie Smith in the middle there, Dorrance Armstrong, DeMarcus Lawrence. Those guys are not to be slept on. Those guys are big athletes defensively. They're strong men, and they can push you around.
Hankins.
Meanwhile, the Eagles have got someone like Hassan Reddick kind of pass rushing out there, who was pretty overrated, I'd say, because he did a lot of his work against tight ends. For some weird reason, people would block him with tight ends. You can't do that. But yeah, and then the Cowboys also have Leighton Vander Esch, not a bad linebacker.
He's injured right now.
And then you got a really good cornerback duo with Stephon Gilmore and Trayvon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs, I didn't like him last year or 2 years ago, but I liked him this past year because what he did was he didn't get as many interceptions, which is respectable because he covered more well. You could see from his PFF grade and such things, just like seeing like the yards he allowed, you could see he was focusing more on coverage, which is respectable. He's an athlete, that's for sure. And he's still got good hands. Now, also, Stephon Gilmore is ridiculously underrated. I mean, the guy, when he's healthy, is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He's won Defensive Player of the Year, and he's not even that much older than he was when he did it. And for the Colts last year, he was awesome. He got some picks. He helped them win against the Broncos there. I mean, you can't doubt that guy either.
He's one of my favorite players in the league, I'd say.
And that defense is just good. Jaron Kearse still progressing. Deron Bland, that's the best cornerback trio in the league by far. Deron Bland with 5 picks all in the back half of the season, I believe. There's
another
slot
8
corner.
Picks this year.
You might not have even heard of him. He's that good.
Not awesome in coverage.
Okay, now
but
the Eagles are getting all the hype here for some weird reason. People think Jalen Hurts is just gonna duplicate what he did last year, and the aging offensive line is gonna be so great without Isaac Seumalo, who the Steelers got. And I do like their running backs. I think Rashad Penny is quite a bit better than
But you
Miles
didn't use
Sanders.
Rashad Penny.
He's just
That's what you
never
get
healthy.
Eagles losing the
And then
division.
DeAndre Swift was a decent pickup there.
Yeah, that was okay.
It's a good two-back
Overrated.
committee there.
Shouldn't make the Pro Bowl.
I also like Dallas Goedert as the tight end.
Yeah.
And obviously the receivers there with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and Olamide Zaccheaus.
Those guys are okay. Julio Jones.
But yeah, like the Eagles, like, I'll take them to make the playoffs. I'll take them 11-6, and the Cowboys 14-3.
11-6. Bang on, perfect.
And their defense is good. They're the Eagles, not awesome. Like their linebackers aren't good, but overall it's a good defense. And their safeties are kind of meh because they got rid of C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Their defense is awful. I don't know why.
And
good personnel.
I think that they'll be good enough to get a playoff spot and maybe win a playoff game. But I just think the Cowboys outmatch them, like, pretty easily. Like, the Eagles have lots of depth on the defensive line. I'll give them that. And that's why they'll be second. So the Giants will be third also. The Giants will be third because Daniel Jones was a one-year wonder. He was awful his past 2 years. I do not know how in the heck he got that contract that he got. 4 years, $160 million. I mean, Brian Daboll is a great coach for the Giants. I think he'll bring them to a 9-8 record. I think he'll have a Mike Tomlin style winning season streak. Not as long, obviously, but I think he'll have like a few seasons of just kind of scraping by at 9-8 and 10-7 and stuff like that. I think 9-8 is going to be their record this year with Saquon Barkley with a chip on his shoulder. Isaiah Hodgins is a really underrated wide receiver.
He is. I think he
came on for them at the end of the year.
He doesn't get
but their defense, I can't really name any players on them, hardly. But they just seem to play well, if you know what I mean. Like, they play as a unit. They're opportunistic. And sometimes they just shut teams down. It seems like the Colts week 17. Nick Foles. Okay. Now, Washington Commanders, they're the worst week 17. They play as a unit. They're opportunistic. And sometimes they just shut teams down. It seems like the Colts week 17. With Nick Foles. Okay.
Where is Nick Foles?
Now, Washington Commanders, they're the worst team in football, and it's not that close. They have a very insert quarterback situation with Sam Howell as your guaranteed starter. How are you not starting Jacoby Brissett? Like, come on.
They did.
Jacoby Brissett is very underrated, I'd say. He should be a starter on a lot of teams. But you're going to start Sam Howell, a third-round pick of the worst quarterback class in NFL history. Maybe. So far, probably. One of the worst. In recent memory, anyway. And you're going to start him over a guy like Jacoby Brissett, who's proven he can take you to a decent record. Like, with the Browns, he was, 3-7, 4-7, somewhere in there. With the Colts, I'm trying to think, he might have led the Colts to a playoff spot. Why can't I think of, I don't think he did, but he was pretty close. He beat Mahomes, I remember, with the Colts. Mahomes and the Chiefs.
I picked the Colts, I loved watching that.
And so Jacoby Brissett should start there. But anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent here. Even if he does, this team, Scary Terry's respectable, Terry McLaurin. But their running backs,
top 8 receiver.
I don't hate Brian Robinson, but I mean, it's like what I said about Javonte Williams. If he's good, any running back's good. So the running backs aren't good. Their offensive line is not good. It's in shambles. Their defense is not good either. Their defensive line is all right. But other than that, their defense is in shambles also. Cole Holcomb's gone. They don't have good safeties. And their corners are pathetic. I mean, they took Emmanuel Forbes in the first round over Christian Gonzalez. Like, how can you pick a team like that to win any games? Like, the management isn't even taking it seriously. Like, they're pretending it's Madden. Like, they're not even taking it seriously. You're taking Emmanuel Forbes over Christian Gonzalez? Like, what could he have shown you at Pro Day for you to do that?
What?
They're not taking the NFL seriously. No. They think they're in some fun league, arena league, or whatever. So I just can't give any respect to them. Dan Snyder sold the team. That should help them.
He did.
That's for sure. Their stadium's awful.
So yeah, the new owner might.
Now, enough with my
It'll
Washington
take a while,
Commanders
though. Dan
rant.
Snyder dug them
I think they'll
a
be
deep
1 and
hole.
16 just because that's the way the NFL works. There's an upset win or two, and I think they'll get one more likely than two. They should be 0 and 17, but they will be 1 and 16 for some weird reason.
It's pretty close.
Now,
Pretty
NFC
close
North,
there.
Lions are getting overhyped. Let's just say it right now. The Detroit Lions are not a top tier team. They're not. They're gonna win their division, but it's gonna be barely, and it's gonna be because you've got Jordan Love in that division with a team that's not like
It wasn't
awesome,
barely.
like not bad, but they have good home field advantage, and they're not amazing. And then the Vikings, they're gonna be awful. They could maybe go 0 and 17, but like I said at the start of the video, they don't have a defense. Basically, they lost Eric Kendricks,
Credit to
Zadarius Smith,
Brian Flores for
Patrick
fixing that
Peterson,
defense.
Cameron Dantzler.
Stand corrected.
Like, are you kidding me? Like, do you just want to like score? Do you want to just like get 2-point conversions and like hope your opponent misses extra points and stuff like that? But you don't even have nearly a good enough offense to do that. It's led by Kirk Cousins. Want to talk about average? My goodness. Justin Jefferson will have to carry this team on his back. It will absolutely, like, the weight could crush him. Like, it's awful. Like what they're asking Justin Jefferson to do here.
They put way
He's
too
not
much
even a
stock
top
into
3
him.
receiver, I don't think. I think Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, and Devontae Adams I'd take over him.
I'd take him over Hill and Cup
Anyway,
now. Hill's
we got
been
the Bears
dropping
there.
some
The
passes.
Bears, I think they'll be 7 and 10. They'll
Oh
win
my
some
goodness.
games. They're not awful. They've got. It seems like they're a little bit on the cusp. They're still in the rebuild, but you can't rebuild in 1 or 2 years. It's kind of tough to do that, even with Justin Fields developing into a top-tier dual-threat quarterback in this league. Almost as good as Lamar running back Jackson
I think he's better.
at running, but then
potentially.
Fields
at
can
running.
throw, so I'd probably take Fields over him.
That's exactly like that.
He's
It's
also still
simple.
younger, so there's
Way
hope
more
of
understanding.
development. We got Chase Claypool on that team, who, I mean, I kind of just laugh at the guy. Like, I don't hate him. I kind of just laugh at the stuff he does, like, just kind of how little he cares. And, I mean, it's fine. So after that, we got the NFC South. I think the Saints, I think they will win 13 games. They have a tough schedule, or they have an easy schedule, sorry. They have a very easy schedule.
They did.
Pretty easy division.
They
Very
blew
easy
it.
division. Panthers and Buccaneers will not be good. Baker Mayfield and Bryce Young as the starters. Defenses for Panthers and Buccaneers are all right, but the offenses will not do anything. I think they'll win 4 games each. Then the Falcons, I like what the Falcons were building. They signed a lot of free agents like Jesse Bates.
But I didn't even think he'd do that.
Their running game was already good. I really liked Tyler Algier, and they drafted Bijan Robinson. And they got Matt Collins, still got Jonnu Smith, Kyle Pitts, one of the best offensive lines in football. So I think the Falcons will make the playoffs with 11 wins, 11 and 6. Then I hope,
11 wins
or
for
then
the
I
Falcons.
think that the Saints will
Arthur
make the
Smith is
playoffs
also
and win the division
terrible,
at 13 and 4.
That's
with Derek
crazy.
Carr
11
coming
wins
there,
for the Falcons.
The great defense, and
The NFL just
Salami
doesn't
and
rely
Michael
on the run
Thomas
game anymore.
hopefully being healthy together for one of the first times. With Michael Thomas always having some sort of reason to not play. Okay. Now, this division also might make some people upset, such as Seahawks fans. I think they'll tie, though. I mean, that could literally go either way between the Seahawks and Rams. Obviously, the Niners are winning the division with their vaunted defense, Christian McCaffrey.
The Seahawks proved me wrong, guys. I mean, the Seahawks, they just, like, I feel like they stunk this year. Like, I feel like Geno Smith went back to his old Jets days. And I feel like the whole team just, even though they won 9 games, there just wasn't really much energy in what they were doing, and they just weren't really, like, being consistent, and they just weren't really playing well throughout the season. Like, I mean, like, I just don't even know how they won 9 games. Like, Pete Carroll, I don't know if it's his fault that they were bad, or if he did good to squeeze out 9 wins. I mean, people saying fire Pete Carroll, I don't know. Like, Geno Smith at quarterback and he still had a winning season. Like, it's tough to argue with. I don't know, that team, it kind of confuses me. There was a point in the season where I just stopped predicting them to win because I just felt like they weren't good, you know? And the Rams, I called the Rams being good, guys. Like, I was in a minority by saying that. I was in the minority by saying that the Rams would be good. I was not agreed with the whole lot, and there is a lot of stuff here that I was right about, and this is one of the things. These unpopular opinions. Bengals did not win their division. Jaguars did not win their division. Eagles did not win their division, and those were the three that I said were preposterous that they were picked to win their division. And the Rams, I mean, they're even better than I thought. Like, they're Super Bowl contenders. I think they'll beat the Lions this week. Then I could see them going into San Fran and taking that one, and then, I mean, who knows from there? I don't know if they'll beat the Cowboys, but, you know, they're contenders to be in the Final Four. You're Super Bowl contenders.
And guys like
They already won it 2 years ago with
Tyshawn
Stafford
Samuel,
and McVay.
Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, one of the best offensive lines in football with the best offensive lineman in the league, and Trent Williams.
Yeah, Niners were really good enough.
And
Purdy's not valuable, though.
yeah, I think the 49ers will win that one easily. The Rams could challenge, though. The Rams, you have to remember here, the Rams were Super Bowl champions not even that long ago. Like, not even 500 days ago. About 500 days ago, actually.
It's crazy that
About
this
500
was an
days ago,
unpopular opinion that they'd be
the
good.
Los Angeles Rams were
Like, they
hoisting
were
the
finally
Lombardi
healthy.
with okay, let's count their key players. Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald. So they must have lost those guys, right? That's why they're not as heavily favored. No! They still have those 3 game-changing stars. Matthew Stafford's a top 5 quarterback. Cooper Kupp's a top 2 receiver. Aaron Donald is the best defensive tackle in the NFL, and probably the best defensive player of all time.
Possibly.
Probably the best player of all time. Almost the best
He
player
got a
of all
Pro
time.
Bowl again.
If he wins another defensive player of the year, I think you got to say he's the best
If you get
all-around
another
player of all
defensive
time.
player of the year or 2 more Pro Bowls plus the one this year.
Yeah, the
He's
Rams.
the GOAT of football.
Cam Akers is also underrated. Cam Akers and Tyler Higbee are both underrated. Their offensive line, sure, it was in shambles last year, but they drafted Steve Avila, and I think that's because of injuries a little bit that it was in shambles. And those guys will all be back. Also, the Seahawks will be pretty good, 10-7. I have them missing out on the playoffs. I have them being like the hypothetical 8th seed.
That
missing out on
happened,
the
I
playoffs
think.
by 1 spot.
That might have
Because
happened.
Geno Smith might come back down to earth, but then their defense will be all right with Tariq Woolen.
Yeah.
And Tevin Bush.
Pretty good prediction.
Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams, those guys will be alright on defense. Then you got a good receiving corps with DK Metcalf leading the charge there. Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Then a decent offensive line, I guess a decent running back, and Kenneth Walker. I'm not that high on him. Yeah. That's what's going to happen there. Then the Cardinals are getting too much hate. We'll just say it now.
Beat the Cowboys and Eagles.
I mean, any team would be getting too much hate if they were in the Cardinals' shoes. No NFL team is quite as bad as people are saying the Cardinals are. That they're like going to be 0-17 or whatever. The Commanders are much worse than the Cardinals. Kyler Murray will be back, all right? Kyler Murray will be back he'll maybe miss 1 or 2 games, honestly. Because he tore his ACL November 13th.
I think the
Remember when
Cardinals
Joe
are very
Burrow tore his ACL November 1st, 2020, and he was fine without a doubt for the start of the 2021 season?
Like, they got
Remember that?
Burrow coming in with a
Well,
cast and playing.
why would Kyler Murray be back within a couple weeks or 3 weeks? And without Kyler Murray, their first game is Washington.
They should have.
Washington, that's an easy win,
Should've
even with
won.
Colt McCoy. Revenge game. Now, do I think they'll make the playoffs? No, because they just don't have enough talent other than some kind of potential guys like Isaiah Simmons and Greg Dortch, guys like that.
Yeah, he was alright.
But I think they'll contend because Kyler Murray has shown the ability to be the best quarterback in the league at the top of his game. And then you got some other savvy vets like Zach Ertz and, I mean, J.J. Watt and A.J. Green retired, but their aura is still probably around the building. J.J. Watt's
Yeah.
mentoring of the
Yeah,
defensive line there.
They
Then you
took
got
picks
Jalen
from him.
Thompson and Buda Baker,
Good
not a bad
leadership.
safety duo. Marco Wilson, an underrated corner that got 2 picks off Tom Brady in the Christmas Day game last year. So yeah, I think they'll have 7 wins, and that's my NFL predictions. Hope you agree. Here it is again. And if you don't, well, you'll just be proven wrong. It's that simple. Goodbye.
Alright guys, thanks for watching. And I felt like that was overall a really successful prediction. Like, some things I got wrong were a lot to do with the AFC North, but that's expected from a Steelers fan. But I will be dropping a playoff prediction video relatively soon, so hope you guys stay tuned for that. And I mean, you'll see. I don't want to spoil a whole lot, but there's gonna be some unpopular predictions, we'll just say, in that playoff bracket. And just feel free to comment your thoughts in the comments below. Like, even if you just skip to the end just now, like, just comment, like, whatever you want. Like, tell me how your day's going. Tell me how your favorite team did, or get mad at me for wrongly predicting how your favorite team would do, or vent to me about how a certain coach should be fired. Like, just go off in the comments, you know? Like, just support the channel. Leave a like, subscribe, because you will enjoy my content. I post in the community tab, too. I post some polls in there. Like, it's just a good environment around this channel. If you haven't, check out some of my YouTube shorts about the Ratbird Steelers game I went to. That was a fun environment there, and you know, I got some good videos there. I could probably even just, like, show you guys a couple, like, while we're here. Like, if we just go to this channel, like, it's just a pretty good, like, channel. I feel like I feel like we got some stuff here. We got 2021 season predictions. But yeah, like we got some stuff. This video got 4